After coaching literally thousands of individuals on the rowing machine, I can say without a doubt, the number one mistake that beginner rowers make that we need to fix if we want to be successful with our rowing journey long term, the big mistake is you're rowing way too freaking fast. I'll explain what I mean. But first, hello, I'm Austin with Training Tall. I'm 6'8", but Training Tall is all about giving you the tips and strategies to help you take your fitness and health above the average, no matter how tall you are. And you can check out my website for my rowing app with follow-along workouts, my workout programs that I put out every single month, and personal coaching with me, one-on-one form reviews, things like that. It's all over on trainingtall.net. Now, when I say that the biggest beginner's mistake is rowing too fast, I want you to ask yourself a couple questions. Have you ever tried a rowing follow-along workout, and during the workout, you were working on low stroke rates? Stroke rates like 16, 18, 20, 22 strokes per minute. And as you're following along, you see the trainer sweating and working, and you're wondering why it doesn't feel challenging, or it feels like it's too slow. When you're rowing, do you feel like the only way you can get your heart rate up is if you keep the stroke rate high, 26, 28, 30, 32, even up to 40 strokes per minute? Or do you feel like the only way to keep up high power in your rowing is to row the strokes hard and fast? If you answered yes to any of those questions, or you kind of get what I'm talking about or have experienced it in the past, this is the issue. We need to wrap our heads around the mindset that we can row hard and have a great workout at any stroke rate. That key understanding is essential to your success in your rowing journey. So how do we fix this? Let's talk about a few things. The first point that I want to make here is understanding that the drive of the rowing stroke and the return are really two separate, distinct parts. And what we see with beginners is if we're told to take hard rowing strokes, you want to row hard, as you drive back hard and fast, there's this tendency to race back up to do it again. But when we really switch on our brains and realize that the drive and the return are two separate entities, we can really control both and manipulate both to achieve lower stroke rates and have a good workout. And so we need to be able to switch our brain on for a hard, intense drive, and as soon as you finish the stroke, flick off your brain. Chill mode, cool, relaxed as you return back up. Flick on the drive, off on the return. Flick on the drive, off on the return. How do you do it? You just have to use your brain power and practice. You can build that discipline to separate that drive and that return. Another thing to realize is the reason why stroke rates and follow-along workouts work for everyone is because the effort that you generate on the drive is completely based on your own fitness. If you don't have a lot of strength in your body right now, if you're a true beginner, you might not be able to drive super hard, relatively. You're giving it the best you can, but maybe that's right here for now. Or you might be a super advanced athlete or someone who's super strong, lifts super heavy weights, and you have the ability to just crank it hard. But you can still control your return. We can all still control our return. Another way to think about this is to think about playing in the swimming pool, moving your hand through the swimming pool. Let me show you what I mean.
So we can actually relate the rowing stroke to playing in the pool. You know how you move your hand through water in the pool? If you move your hand lightly and fast, you can simply just glide across the water. But what happens when you really grip the water and you give a good hard tug in the water? You feel the water resist you more. The harder you push and dig through the water, the more resistance we feel. This is exactly how it works with the rowing stroke.
And so we can see how that swimming pool analogy relates to our rowing. If we're simply just kind of splashing around and paddling back and forth, if you're doing this at a high enough stroke rate, then yeah, that's gonna raise your heart rate and you're gonna get sweaty. But we have the ability to grip that water and really push hard. And think about our strokes as individual rep efforts, where we generate the power ourselves based on our own fitness level. If this concept of going hard on the drive and controlled on the return is still a little confusing, here's another analogy that I have found has been really helpful with individuals when working on this. Think about as you're driving back just through air. But on the return, you're moving through a thick wall of peanut butter. Thick and creamy, and it slows you down. Oh, you can rip through it, and then thick, creamy wall of peanut butter. That helps you to control your returns. You can think about that. You can think of yourself as a light switch where you flick on and flick off. Whatever helps you better understand that concept. When we can really slow our returns down to hit low stroke rates, it also allows us to work on our technique more, because when you're doing high stroke rates, sometimes we just can't keep good rowing technique because we're just bouncing back and forth. Low stroke rates allow us to slow down and practice good rowing fundamentals, because when we come back up, we can drive back as hard as we want to. Does that make sense? Do you see what I'm saying? It takes so much practice, just like learning scales on guitar or piano or learning anything. This stuff doesn't come right away, but we need to be aware of these big concepts, and we need to, every time we sit on the rower, turn on our brains, ready to focus in and not just mindlessly go through the motions, because long term, that's just not gonna work. But if we can focus and keep in mind this idea of separating our drive and our return, you're gonna be able to knock out any rowing workout that comes your way, and you're gonna be so much more successful in your rowing journey. So I hope that makes sense. I hope that was helpful. Please let me know down in the comments, and if you're interested in more from me, check out what I offer rowing related over on my website, trainingtall.net. And thanks so much for all of your support. It means a lot, and I'll see you in the next video.